Our text tonight, our sermon title for tonight is Good and Better Judgment. Good and Better Judgment. Our text will be from Matthew chapter 7. If you would just please stand briefly for the reading of the Word. Matthew chapter 7. Matthew chapter 7. I'll be starting in verse 1. It says, Judge not, Matthew chapter 7 and verse 1. It says, Judge not that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, Let me pull out the mote that is in thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thine own eye? Verse 5. Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote that is in thy brother's eye. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you. Skip on down to verse 15. Beware, verse 15, beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Verse 17, even so every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree, listen here, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. May God add a blessing to the reading and the hearing of His Word. You may be seated. Judge not, lest ye be judged. Judge not, lest ye be judged. You know what, friends, brothers and sisters? There are people that have never darkened the door of it that can quote this passage. I'm not making it up. You can be sitting arbitrarily in a restaurant eating breakfast with a friend and hear somebody quote this passage and they don't even know it. It happened. Honest Scout's honor. Cub Scout. Anyway. Judge not that ye be not judged. And then once out of verses 1 and 2, because verse 2 is very important, it says that basically the judgment that you show is going to be the judgment that you're under. Verse 1 says, don't judge, don't judge or you're going to be judged. Verse 2 says that the kind of judgment that you have is going to be the kind of judgment that's reflected on you, and immediately goes into the story of the speck and the beam. The speck in one person's eye, the beam in the other person's eye. Now, this is how most people interpret this passage. I have a speck in my eye. I'm aware that I have a speck in my eye. You have a speck in your eye. Okay? So don't talk to me about the speck in my eye, or I'm going to bring up the speck in your eye. Okay? So, hey, we all have specks. It's all good. I'm cool with it. You should be cool with it. Leave my speck alone. That's how most people read this passage. Okay? That is a horrible interpretation of this text. This text is talking about how to get the specks out of your eye. That's ultimately the goal, is to cast the beam out of your own eye so that you can see clearly to get the speck out of your brother's eye. It's about everybody getting rid of their specks, not keeping them. Amen. What happens whenever a kid gets something, a splinter in their hand or something in their eye? What's the child reaction? I'll tell you, father of 3, I'll tell you the child reaction. Don't touch it! Don't touch it! Don't touch it! Don't touch it! Ah! Don't let him touch it. Mom, don't let him touch it. Don't let him touch it. People 40, 50, 60 years old haven't grown much. What's wrong with your life? Don't touch it. Don't bring it up. Don't touch that. You know what? How many of you have ever heard, show me your show of hands. If you've ever heard the expression, the elephant in the room, show me a hand. Wave at me, big and tall. I was over 30. Thank you for your showing. I was over 30 whenever I had that explanation explained to me. I didn't know what that was. I was over 30 whenever I had that explained to me, and then for the next few years, I kind of lived it a little bit. Once I knew what it was, I could see it. The elephant in the room is the stuff that people won't acknowledge. Okay? And if you have friends, they will warn you about the presence of the elephant, which is to be ignored. When we get to Aunt so-and-so's house, don't mention the blah, 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 because if you mention the blah, 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 Aunt so-and-so is going to explode. Okay? So we all go into Aunt so-and-so's house, and we've all been warned by our friends and relatives, whenever you get to Aunt so-and-so's house, don't talk about blah, 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 because then Aunt so-and-so is going to have a fit. Okay? And Aunt so-and-so will do something, and something will go wrong, and she'll go, I just don't know why this happens, and the whole family sits there and bites their lip. Amen. Amen. So what it is that you have the existence of the things that need to be identified in order to be removed. The chapter opens with the idea of judgment, but then immediately goes on to talk about things that must be acknowledged and must be identified. It talks about specks and beans. It talks about good and bad fruit. It talks about thorns and thistles. It talks about figs and grapes. There's actually much more. We just read a few verses. But what happens is that these things must be identified in order to be dealt with. And, as you would expect, we have a fabulous illustration for just this very point. I need my lovely assistant. Please open the mystery box. Woo-hoo, yes. Hey, lovely assistant. When they applaud, you're supposed to do the lovely assistant. She's lost. Lovely assistant, pick somebody else in the audience. No, seriously, pick it up. Come on. We got to roll. Huh? Audrey. What is this that my lovely assistant is holding? Tell the truth. Okay, dear. How do you know that this is a watermelon? Because it looks like a watermelon. You know what? Give Audrey the watermelon. Dear, this is your watermelon. That's right. The moral of the story is don't give the game show host a hard time. Amen. Amen. Okay? Lovely assistant, pull something else from the mystery box, the next largest object in the mystery box. Okay? Oh, and some things are still in original packaging, so she may have to rip and tear a bit here, and that's kind of short-sighted on mine. The next biggest one's the spiny one. There we go. And call on somebody farther away. Don't worry, we'll clean up after. Call on anybody farther away. Boom. Pick. Kirk, what is this? Do the hand thing. What is this that my lovely assistant is holding? This is a pineapple. Now, what makes you think that this is a pineapple? It looks like a pineapple. Okay, but now hold on a second. Maybe it's a pineapple for you, but for me it's a duck. Can it be a duck for me? So what? Wait a minute. Let's just be clear here. What you're saying is that you think that for you it's a pineapple, but for me it could be a duck. It would still taste like a pineapple. Okay, so here's the question, ladies and gentlemen. Is it a pineapple regardless of whether or not I say it is? It remains a pineapple. It is, in fact, a pineapple. Lovely assistant, would you real quick run that back to Brother Kirk for me, just real fast? In the best interest of time, now then, I have a question. Hold on a second, lovely assistant. No more for just a second. Okay. All right. Thank you. Now then, we have just identified what is believed to be a watermelon, and we have identified what was believed to be a pineapple. And I have a question. Here's the question. Has anybody made a judgment at this point? Has anybody judged what was being held up? Hold on. You identified it. You know what a watermelon is. You know what a watermelon is. You know what a pineapple is. There's no guesswork about what was there. Okay? Now then, here's something else. It's in my hand. It's in my hand. Let me call on somebody who's a good sport. Brother Mark, you're a good sport. In my hand, I'm telling the truth. In my hand, there is a fruit, vegetable, or grain, or nut in my hand. Sir, just think for a moment. In my hand, there's a fruit, a vegetable, a grain, or a nut. Tell me what you think might be in my hand. Just take a wild shot. Pecan. It's a pecan. Good shot. No, it's a peanut. It's actually a peanut. Run, Brother Mark, the bag of peanuts, please. You notice who I saved the nuts for there. Ha, ha, ha. I told you he was a good sport. He loves me. He does. He does. No matter what he says later, he loves me. Okay. All right. what happens is that you have a watermelon. You can identify. And lovely assistant, that's it for us today. Thank you. Yeah, a hand for my lovely assistant. She's great. What was identified earlier was that you had a watermelon. And you know what a watermelon is. You've known what a watermelon is since you were 3 or 4 years old. Whenever you first encountered a watermelon, the only way a person could not know what the watermelon was if they had never encountered it before. Amen? Right? Once you encounter watermelon, you see a watermelon, it's green, it's red on the inside, it's juicy, you know what it is. Amen? Okay, if you've never, ever in your life seen a pineapple, you might encounter a pineapple and say, what is this? But once you've encountered it, once you've eaten it, once you're familiar with it, you can clearly look at it and say, that's a pineapple. And if somebody in society says, no, it's a duck, you can say, no, it's not a duck. And it doesn't matter how many times I stand here and scream, that's a duck, that's a duck, that's a duck. It doesn't make it any different. That's all identification. Whenever it became judgment was when you didn't have all the facts. Whenever I'm standing here with something in my hand, clearly it's not a watermelon. It wouldn't fit in my hand. Clearly it's not a pineapple. That would not fit in my hand. But there's any number of things it might be. Amen? Okay, so here I am. I've got something in my hand. We know what it's probably not, but it's still, that only narrows the field to a list of things that it might possibly be. Now listen, guys, especially young people, if you're living for God and you're trying to live a Christian life, you're not going to have women come over to your house in the dead of night with nobody else. Amen? Okay? All right? So be prepared to be accused of being gay. Because, hey, that must be what it is. Because you see how that gets started? That's how rumors get started. That's how people jump to conclusions. That's how people say things, mean, vicious, malicious things about people that are not rooted in fact. That's wrong. That could not be more wrong. It is equally wrong to be able to overtly see something, know exactly what it is, and say that it's okay or that that's not what it is. It is what it is. Our churches today suffer intensely because of pastors who won't call sin, sin. Amen. It's wrong. It's sin. We know what it is. It's the same way it's been since Genesis and following. It hasn't changed. You can see it. It's not right. That's wrong. And people today, they're doing things that are right, and they're being told that they're wrong. The value system of the world is upside down. The difference? You know what, brother? You've got to be able to tell the difference between a fig and a thorn. You've got to be able to tell the difference between a false prophet who's a wolf on the inside and somebody who's a true prophet who's one of the sheep. Your life depends on it. Your life depends on it. And notice the things that are listed. You've got thorns and thistles and a pig that will turn and rend you. These are all things that are going to hurt you bodily. If you can't identify, or if you refuse to identify, you are going to be subject to injury. People get into relationships, they get out, they get back into relationships, they're hurt over and over and over again. Why? Because they keep insisting that a thistle is a grape and that a thorn is a fig. And it's not, and it never can be. You know what? Everybody out there, friends, everybody out there knows somebody, knows some couple that they met in a bar and they're happily married today. Everybody knows somebody that's like that. But for every couple that actually has that story, there's 10,000 people who went down the road of hell. A whole lot of years ago, I had a pastor with he had a rebellious daughter. I've actually thanked my daughter for being a good daughter. I have known so many people that had just horrific daughters. He had just a terrible daughter. She was just always into trouble one way or another. And he told her a story that I remember today. He said, "Dear, you don't find gold in the sewer and you don't find good diamonds in the trash." And I thought about that for a lot of years. And you know something? I'll tell you, there is gold in the sewer. I'll guarantee. In a city this size, with all these earrings floating around and bracelets and rings and freaking on the edge of the sink, I guarantee you, I promise you that somebody has lost one down the commode or down the sink, and today there's 24 karat gold in the sewer. Okay? Who wants to grab their pans and go run to the sewers? No. No. In that landfill, there's landfills, huge mountainous landfills. I'll guarantee you there's a diamond in the trash. With all the diamonds we have and our rings and our jewelry and so on, I'll guarantee you there's a diamond in the trash. But you know what? Do you want to excavate in a landfill looking for a diamond? No. You know why people continue to do these things? Why they continue to be hurt over and over and over again? I'll tell you why. I will tell you why. Because if you want grapes, you have to wait for a season. If you want grapes, you got to plant, you got to sow, you got to cultivate, you got to prune, and you got to wait. And the wait is what kills people. Thorns and thistles are year-round. You can walk out there right there. There's a field right over there. I guarantee you there's thorns and thistles right over there. And you can have them free today. Not a real convincing sales pitch, is it? You know what? If you want to get saddled with a loser, there's one not far from here. Free today. Love to sit on your couch, run up the bills, and eat everything in the fridge. What was that about pearls in front of pigs? I got something to show you. Now, friends, any of my props or anything, you're always welcome to look at it. But now this was a gift, and it's a little bit fragile, okay? And so even though you can come up and look at it, you can touch it if you want to, but it is fragile. Please be careful. If it gets broke, it's not the end of the world, but it would please be careful. Okay? Another thing is that this is an amateur mount, so if you find lots of flaws, don't judge me. Oh, wait a minute, that's not right. This, because we say pigs and we don't think about pigs. We don't really know what pigs are like. We don't associate with pigs. We don't deal with pigs. This is a domestic pig gone fallow. And again, this skull was in a great deal of decay when it came to be mine. And this is an amateur mount at best. But this is a good depiction of what we're talking about. If you have holy things, if you have sacred things, gifts from God, and you're not careful with those, and you just throw those out to just anybody, you're going to be dealing with something that looks like this. This is pretty ugly, isn't it? And I have it on good authority that at least one wise, good Christian woman refused to have this in her house. She said, "Get that, make it two." But you know, this hangs in my man cave garage, by the way. That's where this hangs at. This is a monster. You see these teeth and their tusks is what they are. They actually slide over one another as the pig chews, and it sharpens. That's what causes them to be sharpened. And they will bite or they will thrust this into your legs. And they're a very hostile animal. Very, very hostile animal. God has given everybody in this room something holy, something sacred, something precious. You have pearls. You have value. You have treasure. You're a child of the King. You are divinely created. You are not common. You are not a cosmic accident. You are not the descendant of an ape. You are created in the image of an almighty, miraculous God. You are divine. And it is beneath you. It is beneath you to treat that with casualty or to throw that to just anybody. No. No. And I will tell you something. What does it say the pig's going to do? The pig doesn't acknowledge what is holy. The pig doesn't acknowledge what is sacred. The pig doesn't know and does not care to know what is sacred or holy. He's going to take his dung-covered feet and he's going to trample on your good stuff. He's going to walk all over your furniture. He's going to walk all over your house. He's going to walk all over your vehicle. He's going to eat up your savings account. He's going to empty out the cupboard. And if there's anything else left, and whenever he gets to the bottom of the stack and there's nothing left to trash, destroy, and consume, you know what? He's going to be mad at you. Amen. Come on. And he's going to turn on you. Do you know how many times, and this again, I was a younger man, how many times I helped people out and they turned around and hated me for it? When you turn the spigot off, when the goodies dry up and say, hey, Oinky, maybe you need to get a job. What? Watch out. Grab a chair. It's not going to be pretty. You have to be able to have good judgment. You have to be, if somebody has dispositions, if somebody can't control their finances with their money, what do you think they're going to control their finances with your money? If somebody's not going to take care of their car, what makes you think they're going to take care of your car? Amen? Amen. You have to have good judgment. The goal is to help people, specks and beams, to get their situation together, to help them in a way that helps them to grow, that helps them to get the speck out, that helps them to see the problem. Hey, this isn't right. This is why this isn't right. This is something I need to grow, learn, improve, and develop. Okay? And require something of them. Remember the story of grapes and figs? It takes work and it takes time. It takes patience and dedication. Amen. Another thing that's lost, and there's no way to illustrate. There's nothing I can bring in that would illustrate this. Today, in our world today, you can go to the nearest grocery store and you can buy a 5-pound bag of sugar for $1, $2, $3. And it doesn't cost anything. You can get artificial sweeteners for about the same. You can get whatever. And to have sweet tasting stuff. I was at a birthday party the other day and we had ice cream cake, guys. Ice cream cake. Woo! Ice cream cake. In the old world, to get something sweet was almost never happened. Almost never. There was a reason why Samson was willing to eat honey from the carcass of a lion, because you almost never encountered something sweet, something that tasted sweet. Figs and grapes, domesticated grapes, are sweet, and it's worth waiting for. It's a treasure. God has treasures for you. You're not meant to eat thistles and thorns. God didn't mean for you to eat thistles and thorns. Let that pig eat for thistles and thorns. Go eat thistles and thorns, pig. That's fit for you, but you're a child of God. You have good things coming to you. And people that cannot identify the goods and the evils, they lose their treasure. They themselves suffer injury. But most importantly, in my view of this text, most importantly is they miss the figs and the grapes, guys. You know, people want to talk like coming to church is a chore. Maybe it is a little bit, but come on. I mean, people want to talk like, you mentioned tithing, it's like, oh, they're after my money. Ah! Come on, 10% of what God has blessed you with? Is that so much?